Hi, welcome back to another episode on the Healthy Wisdom series with Dr. Jen Chen. All right, Healthy Wisdomers, last week we covered the third guiding principle, which is the principle of empowerment. And this week we are going to cover the fourth principle, which is that of accountability. Now, the definition of it reads that the board holds the CEO accountable for the organization's success, compatible with delegating authority, right? And last week we also talked about delegating authority in the principle of empowerment. So there is a correlation between these two, and is in turn accountable to the principles. Now, we see that these two principles are actually interconnected via the art of delegation. And in essence, we're talking about taking responsibility because we are giving people responsibility by empowering them in their roles, in their lives, in their organizations, companies, or family unit as a whole. And in this sense, we're holding them accountable as well. So by this correlation, we can see that accountability and empowerment and taking responsibility all go hand in hand. So one of the things that we can kind of look at from the accountability perspective is that it works both ways, right? We hold ourselves responsible for doing our part. We also hold others responsible for doing their part. And in turn, others also hold us responsible for doing our part. So do you see how we are all interconnected in that sense, as it's almost like a little web of interconnection, right? Now, how do we actually go about becoming more accountable, right? Or even say, get an idea as to what accountability really is and how we actually do accountability. Well, there are three main things that I've kind of put in perspective so that, we can consider accountability by being able to accomplish these three things. The first one is being consistent. We must consistently show up, right? So if you are somebody who is consistent, over time, you will build up a sense of trust, and in turn, you are going to be a person that people see that they can count on. And that's in essence accountability, because people can count on you, right? And so one part of this consistency is to keep your word, right? If you say you're going to do something, do it. But you can't just do it like in a very wishy-washy way. You have to do it to the best of your abilities because people do count on you. And so I really like the phrase that says, don't overpromise and end up under-delivering, because that is in the worst trust breaker, right? If you overpromise what you can do for somebody and you end up not delivering on those promises, people can really feel jaded in the end when they are disappointed, right? So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're consistently keeping your word. Okay, and the second part is, honestly, don't let yourself off the hook, right? I know as human beings and, people with lots of things going on in our lives, we will tend to have some excuses, and, we may not be then able to follow through with whatever it is that we had set out to do, right? And I do remember, we talked about, the art of self-discipline in episode 18. So I'd like to encourage you to maybe go back and review that episode, because in that episode, we definitely covered a lot of those different factors that will also help us become consistent, right? Because that's how you build self-discipline. So circle back. at that episode, and it'll serve as a really good review. So the first thing that we just covered is to be consistent and to consistently show up, right? That will then make you an accountable person. The second thing is to put things into your schedule. I definitely am again, guilty as charged. I mean, I teach from scar tissue, you guys. Like everything that I share with you guys, I have either done it, and I have made the mistake, learned from it, I guess grew from it and made the changes. And, putting things on a schedule, there is an art to that too, because truthfully, like I hate to admit it, but it's so true whenever I hear that if it's not on the schedule, it doesn't get done. And it is so true. Like, think about how many times you have had maybe a gazillion things on your list, and the ones that you did put in your schedule, maybe like 40% got done, and the ones that never made it on your schedule, like some you probably have completely forgotten, and then maybe like a few months later, when somebody said something that made you remember about that thing that you needed to do, and then you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that, right? I mean, that's happened to me so many times, right? And that's just honestly Murphy's Law, right? If there's something that's going to happen in your life, and if something is going to go wrong, it will go wrong. And they all seem to happen all at once, right? Because distractions, challenges always come up in our lives. Life is about a little bit of chaos, right? Like, as in kinetic energy, it just likes to keep moving, and it just likes to keep testing us and making us, learn and adapt, and be able to kind of become better as we grow in our ability to respond and act in a better way, the more challenges and the more difficulties that we run into our lives, right? So put it on your schedule or it won't get done, right? That's part of being accountable to yourself, to others, and allowing others to keep you accountable. And the third one is to reframe your expectations. This one I really like because a lot of times, maybe you think you can crush it all the time and you can complete everything all the time. And sometimes, you'll find that, your energy levels kind of take a dip. Your sort of level of completion of your tasks kind of take a dip, and it's probably because you haven't had the chance to take a little break and reset. Right? Another way I like to kind of think about it is that, truthfully, we cannot be 120% all the time without taking a day off here or two, right? Like, I mean, that's just, it's just part of, being human, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, be 120%, right? Because I'm a 120% all the time, as much as possible, but I do take days off. And, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I tell myself a lot of times, it's okay that I'm not a great mom 24/7. It's okay. It's okay for us to not be, great parents all the time, 24/7. We are all human beings. And as long as we can recognize that, hey, maybe I'm not being the best version of myself today, and I recognize it and I acknowledge it, and then I try to do better the next time, I think that's the best scenario that we can draw for ourselves, because we all need that time for recovery and rest. So I hope these 3 really good, simple ways of creating accountability and allowing ourselves to become more accountable to others in being consistent and putting things on your schedule, as well as reframing our expectations. I hope these aspects and these little activities will help you in your journey to become much more accountable in your principled life. All right, Healthy Wisdomers, it has been a pleasure to share another episode with you guys. And I want to thank you guys, for your continued support and listening. Please take a minute to subscribe, follow, and rate this episode so that we can share this wisdom and invite more people to join us on this journey. This is the Healthy Wisdom series with Dr. Jen Chen. We'll catch you guys next week.